Thank you very much for joining today's online event about LTE routers for industrial applications. I'm here together with my colleague Marcel, who will guide us later to the Q&A section, and my name is Jos. I'm CTO and Managing Director from Welotec and guide you through the presentation. We're not only talking about industrial routers, but also about the complete package, including the management software, VPN concentrator, and accessories like antennas. Before we start, the presentation will take around 20 minutes, and at the end, you'll have around 10 minutes for Q&A. Please feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. So you can use the Q&A section within the Zoom app to ask your questions. At the end, we'll take enough time to answer everything. During the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about applications, then about the complete package of the routers, management softwares, and then have some kind of deep dive into the router series, the central device management, VPN concentrators, and then finally continue with antennas. Let's start with one slide about Welotec. So Welotec is a German-based company founded in 1969, more than 50 years ago. And since more than 20 years, we are working in industrial IoT applications, and we are one of those pioneers in that field. We're always talking about digital integration of distributed machines and systems, including in the energy market, machine and production facilities, public transportation, including bus and rail, and also in the heavy machinery and mobile machinery, like farming vehicles. Our main focus is on connectivity to those different assets and also to process the data directly at the edge. Scalable will be done and maintained through central management system for onboarding, mass rollouts, but also maintaining the devices through their life cycle. Looking into typical applications for industrial routers, we start with public transportation. So they could be used in buses or railway systems, for example, to connect the board computer, but also to have some kind of additional video surveillance, e-ticketing solutions, or people counting. All the systems need connectivity to central systems, and this on a quite reliable base. There is where industrial routers with specific certifications for bus and railway are needed and used. In addition to that, there is also mechanical engineering, machine builders, production facilities where you have a lot of machines that need a remote connection for maintenance or to report their health data or condition monitoring information for the next maintenance interval. This is also another typical application where not only the data is sent, but also remote access over VPN is required. A newer field is all this e-charging for e-vehicles, not only for cars, but also for buses and trucks. Therefore, is also infrastructure needed, and those EV charging stations that are distributed across cities and also other urban environments where we need connectivity to have payment information, or where displays are with providing additional advertisements. So there we can use also 4G as one of the possibilities and the easiest way to connect those different distributed charging stations. Another typical thing is renewable energy, for example, solar, but also wind, biogas, and so on, that are distributed across the countryside, but also on buildings within the cities. And they also need connectivity, for example, for the owner of the plant to see how much electricity is produced, to have some kind of overview, but also for the TSO and DSOs to understand and control the renewable energy to make sure that the grid is stable enough. In addition to that, secondary substations play a major role for the energy transition. And this is the connection between the electricity grid and the private households, more or less. And there you have RTUs, you have power quality measurement devices, and additional equipment that needs to be connected, and where you also need to control the grid. Because of the energy transition, more and more sensors are installed and need to be monitored to make sure that we can have a stable grid, even though we have a lot of changes and new demands and everything. Last would be digital signage, so advertisement within city centers or bus terminals or everywhere around the urban landscape. And there you need to have connectivity for new content, but also to monitor everything. And sometimes they're also equipped with people counters so that you can also check how many people have seen the advertisements. So it will also be needed for charging purposes. Let's now jump into the modular Welotec package, which not only includes the reliable hardware platform, but also the software management and VPN. Let's start with the hardware anyway. So the Welotec portfolio consists of reliable hardware. This means DIN rail mounted, very compact industrial devices that can be mounted in cabinets, but also wall mount possibilities, or even embedded in existing designs. They're equipped with LTE, Wi-Fi, and we also have models with GPS. This reliable hardware also needs a very reliable and secure operating system. Therefore, we combine the hardware to an appliance with an integrated, embedded and hardened Linux OS with routing functionality, with VPN technologies like OpenVPN, IPsec, and several others. We have the possibility to support IPv6, and with one series also to support IPv4, and with one series also to support IPv6. This hardware works pretty well in small installation or hardware and software in small installations. But as soon as you want to go for larger rollouts, if you reach 50, 100 or 1,000 devices, you need to have some kind of management system for those devices, central management system. Nobody can configure each and every single device and keep it updated, which manages this configuration. That's why we developed a device management system, which is called Smart EMS, that allows us to manage all the devices in the field. It also supports you with onboarding, which means some kind of zero-touch provisioning, so the devices can automatically register and you can get the right configuration on the device, the right firmware, and so on. Software can be hosted on a server, or we can also have it on a bare metal installation, but you can also run it within Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud if needed. Last but not least, we have the VPN concentrator, which we call VPN Security Suite, which allows you to access the devices, but also devices connected to the router. So this allows you to have end-to-end connection between the service personnel or applications and the device at the end. And this could be a PLC, for example, or RTU, or an industrial computer that's connected to the cellular router. Let's have a look at the different series. In total, we have 3 different router series, which is the TK100, 500, 800 series. Let's start with the 100 series. It's the smallest one. So it's a very compact housing which offers 4G connectivity with 2 Ethernet ports and mainly used with wall mounting capabilities. It can also have DIN rail mounting if needed. So this is the smallest and most compact one. Then we have the TK500 series, which allows or gives you more possibilities for connectivity, including 5 Ethernet ports, serial ports like RS-232, 485, and beside the LTE, you also have Wi-Fi connectivity. You have only wired solutions, so you can have it also without 4G or Wi-Fi. And it can also be equipped with LTE Cat 1 if needed. This TK500 series is made for DIN rail mounting, so it really has Ethernet connections and serial connections on the front and top, so it's very easy to use it in a cabinet. It's the same with the TK800 series. It's also made for DIN rail mounting for cabinets. And in addition to the 500 series, it also offers an option for GPS, so geolocation. It also has I/O, and it comes with a software that not only allows static routing, but also dynamic routing, so that you can have more complex network setups. The TK800 series is also the series that offers you IPv6. So if you have requirements for larger networks, this would be perfect for you. In addition to that, the TK800 series is also designed to be used in secondary substations. It's certified for bus applications, so public transportation and railway applications like EN 5155. Okay, after the hardware, we come to the management software. We have the Welotec Smart EMS, which is software for central and easy management for distributed devices in the field. It allows you to manage configurations of the devices. It allows you to upgrade and regularly update firmware. And you have data diagnostics. So as soon as you have a little larger fleet, it's recommended to also use the Smart EMS to maintain your devices in the field. Besides maintaining, it also helps you on onboarding and makes the first and initial configuration of the devices. Therefore, it allows you to use zero-touch provisioning, so you get pre-configured devices for your tenant. From us, just need to connect power and antenna to the devices. They'll go online and register on the central management. You just need to activate them, and then they get their right configuration, their right firmware, and you can supervise the devices and configure them. This is a fully automated process, so manual interaction is not really needed. You don't need a lot of people configuring devices. You don't need manpower or specialized manpower at the site itself, which solves a lot of headache with networking and those stuff. It also integrates easily with ERP systems or other systems for monitoring through a REST API. The REST API follows the API-first approach, so every single function of the central management software can be accessed through that API, so you can fully integrate that in any device and system that you probably have. It's available as an on-premise solution, so you can have it as a virtual machine, a bare metal installation. It's containerized software, which is very scalable, so you can also run it in Azure cloud. Depending on your data center or your IT approach, everything which allows modern IT infrastructures is possible to run that software. Having a look at the VPN Security Suite, it allows you to create a VPN tunnel from the central site, from the central server, to the device itself. And of course, to the connected devices. This could be a PLC in a machine, This could be a HMI in a machine. This could be the board computer in a bus. This could also be the charging terminal inside a charging station, or an RTU inside a secondary substation. And of course, you can also connect to the router itself. The VPN Security Suite fully automates that process. Many of our customers, it was a headache for them to set up a VPN, to configure the VPN, to maintain the VPN, to maintain certificates, to make sure that everything is up and running. The VPN Security Suite is doing that easily, so you don't need to have an expert. And for even complex designs, we help you to set up configuration once. And this can then be run in the central site and be deployed to all the devices in the field. You create some kind of harmonized VPN infrastructure, and besides the Welotec routers, you can also connect standard OpenVPN devices. So every device with OpenVPN can be integrated, or devices that can run Docker containers can be used together with the VPN Security Suite. Same as the Smart EMS, it also follows a very modern software design for easy scaling, and allows you to access all the functionalities through a REST API. It also runs next to the Smart EMS on a virtual machine, or in a cloud installation, or we can have it as a bare metal installation. Because security becomes more and more important and is crucial for many applications, it meets very high security standards for encryption and setup according to the BSI, which is a German federal organization for IT security. Coming to the last part, very important is the right antenna for your applications to meet the frequencies for the LTE bands that are required, which might be different between different locations. You need to select the right indoor or outdoor setup. You might have the need for vandal-proof design, and probably also cover 5G frequencies, or in Germany, for example, for the energy market, 450 megahertz, which is also possible for those antennas. We're doing wireless systems since more than 3 decades, coming from wireless, and have quite a deep knowledge and experience in antenna selection, antenna mounting, consultation with antennas, so that you have always on connectivity. Sometimes in many applications, not doing that right brings a lot of headache to you later on. We now finished the presentation, and jumping over to the Q&A section. I hope that we have quite a lot of questions already. Anyway, you're able to ask questions continuously, so please feel free. And Marcel, do we have some questions already?
Yes, I can see that we already have some questions. But first of all, thanks to you, Jos, for your interesting presentation. And yes, as you talked about it before, we now have around about 10 minutes to answer the questions from our viewers. And I would like to lead the Q&A session as a presenter and pass the questions from the chat to you, Jos. So let me have a look. So, okay, I can see the first 2 questions are regarding to our software solutions. Maybe we can combine these 2. So the first question is, how many devices can be managed by the management software?
Well, the Smart EMS can manage as many devices as you need. So 5-digit numbers like 10, 20, 30,000 are not a problem at all. If you are going into 6-digit numbers, it's also not a problem. It always depends a little bit on the scalability of the server. The largest installation we have multiple 10,000s of devices inside and managed with a single instance.
Okay. So maybe talking about the scalability, is it also possible to include existing devices from other vendors, or do they necessarily have to be Welotec devices?
Well, first of all Welotec devices are supported.
Okay.
So the TK100, TK500, and TK800 series routers, but also our edge gateways are supported, the EG500 or EG600 series. In addition to that, within the Smart EMS, we also integrated partner devices. We integrated devices from HMS. We integrated devices from Redline controls. And if there is a need for integrating other devices, please get in touch with us. We can check if it's possible on our own, or if we have to talk to the vendor to do that.
Okay.
For the VPN Security Suite, which is an addition to the Smart EMS, we can also integrate every device that supports OpenVPN, or which allows us to run containers. So there's a container available for direct connection with the VPN Security Suite that can easily be used.
Okay, thank you. There's another question to our software solution. So is it possible to host Smart EMS or VPN Security Suite in the cloud?
Yes. Or let's differentiate that question. We are not hosting that system for our customers yet, except we are offering starter packages where we also operate the system. But then it's on your own. Due to the fact that the software is containerized, it's very easy to run it in a cloud environment. And many of our customers are doing that, for example, in Azure or AWS. So it scales and runs perfectly in that environment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I will look it up for more questions. There are some questions, so give me short time. Okay, so another question regarding to the Smart EMS solution. Is it possible to combine the TK800, TK500, and TK100 in the Smart EMS?
With the latest version, it's possible. The TK100 is more a newer version. So if you have existing installation with existing or with the latest version of the Smart EMS, it can support TK100, TK500, TK800. And you can combine them as you wish, and you can also combine them with other devices, edge gateways from Welotec, for example, or Flex Edge from Redline, or smart grid gateways from HMS. And for OpenVPN devices with containers, it's also, for example, possible to integrate the PFC 200 from Vago in the VPN Security Suite.
Okay, thank you. So I'm reading another question from another viewer. So I will try to give it to you. The viewer writes he would like to shed some light on devices which supports AWS and Azure. I think it's regarding to edge functions, and question to this. Also, does the devices has programming capabilities like reading data from I/O ports and forwarding this data to Azure or AWS?
We don't directly have that integrated in the routers. We have other devices for that. There's a fourth router series, which is a TK 600 series, which has a little different functionality that we did not present, that can collect Modbus data, convert it to MQTT, and then connect it to Azure or AWS. In addition to that, we have also edge gateways which have programming capabilities where you can run containerized applications for collecting data from machines, sensors, and so on, and then pre-process it if needed, and then send it also to the cloud system like Azure or AWS.
Okay. So for the routers we saw today, this is not possible?
For the routers that we saw today, it's not possible. It's not integrated. They are routers and dedicated for routing functionality and not for processing data.
Okay.
But please get in touch with us, and we have perfect solutions for that. We can check your requirements and give you quite a good solution for that.
Okay, so let me see. The next question is about the TK100. So if I remember correctly, you talked about the design from the TK100. And the question is about the availability of Wi-Fi on it.
The TK500 has Wi-Fi capability. The TK100 does not have. It just offers one-time LTE and 2 Ethernet ports. Nevertheless, we have, at least in the backlog, the possibility to add Wi-Fi, but we did not take a decision if we do that yet.
Okay. So maybe this is also a good question for the question before. Is it possible to test the routers or maybe other devices and the software solutions from Welotec?
Well, we have starter packages, which includes the hardware, which includes the Smart EMS and VPN Security Suite that we host for you for a period of time. And which also includes service in setting up configurations and so on. So please get in touch with us, and then we can offer you a starter package which allows you to test your application and also discuss your requirements with our experts.
Okay. So maybe in addition to that, are there any existing use case or reference reports for the complete package?
Well, the complete package, I guess it's the routers and software together. Yes, they are. I guess you find them under references or something like this on our webpage. There are solutions on the webpage and then success stories. So please check out welotec.com. If you have requirements from a specific vertical market and need further information on that, please get in touch with us. We have also more stories to share, and we can also connect you with our existing customers so that you get information about how they use it and direct feedback from the user itself.
Okay, so let me see. Another question is about networking, I think. What is the difference between dynamic and static routing?
Okay, let me start with static routing. Static routing is pretty well simple to do, and it is enough for most applications and customers. This allows you to set network routes predefined. So you configure them in the device, you know where to go from the device to the next hop and where the data should flow. For dynamic routing, the router itself talks to other network participants and exchange routes, and is looking for the best way to transport the traffic. So you can set up a networking or dynamic routing using specific protocols. The TK100 and TK500 only support static routing. The TK800 supports static and dynamic routing. If you need dynamic routing, you usually know that pretty well, and then you should use it. If you don't need it, all the router series will work with static routing as well.
Okay, perfect. So as I can see, we are already at the last question, and this is about the compatibility with 5G. Maybe you can talk a little bit about this.
We presented 4G LTE router. 4G is the initial part of 5G. So if your application did not change over the last few years, 4G is the best solution for you. If you're looking into 5G, you need to have 5G requirements, which would be, for example, very high bandwidth, which exceeds 300 Mbits. You would need, or you have another requirement, which is, for example, extremely low latency for real-time control, for example, which is not really supported by the existing 5G networks yet. Or you have massive IoT with extremely low bandwidth and battery power devices, which is also not really a router application. The routers that we have until now are not 5G capable, but we are working on that and have that on the roadmap. But it's very important that we check your requirements first. So we're looking into high-speed devices for public transportation with 5G at the moment. For most other applications, it's not really needed.
Okay, I understand. So, as I can see, as I said, this was the last question. So, as a reminder, please feel free to contact us after this webinar with questions we didn't answer yet. And since all the questions from the chat have been answered, I would like to pass back to you, Jos.
Yeah. Thank you very much for attending this online event, and I hope you got some kind of important information for you. If you have further questions, if you need further information, please get in contact with your account manager, or you can also directly reach out to me and I'll come back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining, and hope that you will also look into our next webinar. Bye-bye.
Bye.